Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Bradu. Let's talk about Shadowdark house rules today. Most of these I use for solo, but they would work for a regular game with a group as well. Um, some of them, anyway. I've kind of gathered these ideas from various places, other games, other people's house rules. Maybe I twisted it to make my own. Maybe I came up with it completely on my own. So, let's see. Let's jump into it. We are talking Shadow Dark. The first thing that I like to switch up a little bit is I expand the armors. The core book that I just showed you only has three armors: leather, chainmail, and plate mail. And so I expanded that to be for three weights. So leather, which takes up one slot. You've got leather and studded leather, which is one AC better. Chainmail, which takes up two slots, is then a medium armor, and you've also got scale mail, which is one better AC than chainmail and takes up two slots. But you still get your dex bonus with those medium armors. And then plate mail, which is your heavy armor, is a 15 AC, but I added several below it. So I didn't change the upper end. You can't get armor that's better than plate mail because I didn't want to mess with the balance there. But if you have a low dex score and like a fighter type and you can't afford plate, you can get ring mail is the cheapest with just a 12 AC, but you don't get your dex doesn't go down if you have a negative dex. So I have ring mail, half plate is 13, splint is 14, and plate is 15. So that covers my whole range of armors that I use in my games. And also I have a couple switches to shields. I don't think I've ever used this, but it's in the back of my mind as a house rule I want to use, and that's sundering shields, meaning you can choose to destroy your shield and negate a hit. So let's say I'm a fighter with a shield and I get hit with a critical hit that would drop me to 0 HP. Instead, I can sacrifice the shield, block the hit, but the shield is destroyed. But I live. So I love that rule. I love that house rule. And it would give an additional benefit to using shields. And then also I'd like to, and I don't know if I've used this either, but I have it written in my little armors thing, have a buckler that takes up 0 slots, but just does like a +1 AC because it's not as big and sturdy as a full shield. And you could theoretically have the buckler and still say hold a lantern. I don't know if I'd say you could wield. Anyway, uh, okay, next one, torch timer. I think the perfect way to do a torch timer would be if somebody, not me because I don't have the programming ability, somebody programmed something that could randomize the numbers. So let's say you put in the number, a torch timer is an hour. Let's say you put in an hour and it randomizes that that your torch is going to go out between 20 minutes before and 20 minutes after that hour. So it's anywhere from 40 to 80 minutes long, and you don't know when that buzzer is going to go off. And nobody knows. It would just show like question marks on the app until it buzzes. I think that would be the coolest thing because it would surprise everybody, even the DM. As a solo player and the DM, I want that surprise element, and I tend to play shorter sessions than a big group would. So for what I do for solo is I do a 30-minute torch timer, and when that buzzer goes off, there's a 50-50 chance it goes out, and I'll roll, if I roll and know that it doesn't go out, then it stays for another half hour or I'd probably go do another 15 minutes actually. And if it goes out, then it goes out. You're screwed and the monsters kill you. All right, next one. Rather than track, oh, I like this one a lot. And this I can't remember. I feel like I heard something. I heard a rule similar to this somewhere that I then took to the next level for me. Rather than tracking arrows, which I hate to do, I hate to track mundane stuff, right? I want my games to move along. But this has worked really good. It's an abstraction for tracking arrows. If I have like Nura is my bow, my ranger with a bow. If I roll a nat 1 with her, it means she's low on arrows. It might be her last arrow, even. If I roll another nat 1 during that same session, she's out of arrows. Now, how does that make sense? It's an abstraction. It's like, because you could roll two nat 1s um, to start the adventure, to start the session. So, how do I describe that? It means that she dropped them along the way, like getting into the dungeon, or they got wet or something like that and are out of commission. So I don't know. I was watching one of those shows about surviving in the wilderness, and this guy, they each had like two or three arrows or something. And I remember one where this guy's walking, and all of a sudden he gets to where he goes to hunt, and he reaches for an arrow, and they're gone, and he's like, "Oh crap." Like I was hiking and they fell out somewhere. So it's kind of like that. So anyway, if you with arrows or bolts or any kind of ammo, if you roll a nat 1 on your attack, you're low on ammo. If you roll another nat 1 before you replenish, like let's say you kill some orcs and they've got bows, take their arrows. Great. Then you're back to full. But if you roll another nat 1 before you can get more arrows, you're out. So all right. I love this one. Not everybody's going to like this. It's because it's old school, but I really love it because in Shadowdark, the races, ancestries are so bare bones. You basically get a little description and then like one racial ability. Well, I want to bring back the racial ability score bonuses that are tied to your race. And to make that minimal, not too much of an effect, but also still give some player choice, I like to have two for each. So, for instance, a dwarf gets a +1 to their strength or constitution, player's choice. Half orc would be the same. An elf would be +1 to dexterity or intelligence. A human has the versatility; they get to pick +1 for any of the 6 ability scores. I think that covers that. I was gonna say you can kind of. I was trying to think if there was one that I'm not real sure of. So like Goblin, I'd probably do Dex or Con. Halfling, I would do Dex or maybe Wisdom, and that might be it. You can do whatever makes sense for you there, but I love that it ties into all the way back to the beginning of D&D games that I played. The race has always got a bonus, and in 5e, it's like I think now you get to choose +3 points to put wherever you want. That makes no sense to me. Like, you can't put +2 strength to a halfling just because you want everything to be fair and equal. Halflings aren't inherently strong. You could still roll really high for strength on a halfling, great, but they don't get a bonus for being a halfling. But they could get a bonus to Dex for being a halfling. Anyway, that covers that one. This one I don't use, but this was my 5e house rule that I completely came up with for a death timer. I hated the death saves. You're rolling death save after death save. It gives everybody super long, like a lot of time to try and save you if you have a character who's unconscious. I wanted it to get more deadly. So this was before I even discovered Shadowdark, but I think the same rule would work very well in Shadowdark. But I don't see anything wrong with the death timer in Shadowdark. I've been playing with that as is, and it works pretty well. So I haven't used this for Shadowdark, but I'm definitely at least going to try it. Anyway, here it is. Instead of rolling best to 3 death saves, 3 successes or 3 failures, I roll a single death save. So if a character goes down, you're going to roll a single death save. If they fail, they die. If they make it, they come back with 1 hit. They have 1 hit point. This, let's see, on that death save, they get to add their con bonus. So if you've got a really strong con of a +2, then you only need to roll an 8 instead of a 10. It's a 10 or higher. But here's the key about this. That save doesn't take place until the character's next turn. They would skip a whole turn. So that way, everybody in the party would have a chance to act before that death save takes place. And the reason for that is because you could go down on somebody else's turn. So let's say you're in initiative order and the orcs go right before this guy and take him down, well then, oh, now it's your turn, make a death save. Nobody's had a chance to do anything yet. So you get a whole round. You miss like your first turn after going down, you just have to sit there. And then the next turn you have to roll your death save. All right, cool. Magic missile. I've always thought of magic missile as a spell that can potentially target more than one target. So I was disappointed with the Shadowdark version of Magic Missile that's one missile for 1d4 damage. That seems weak, and also you can only target one. So I just out of the gate go, you get two missiles, and each does 1d3. So it's a tiny bit stronger than the Magic Missile by the book, but not much. And then I would add another missile. But I think I did try this out, and it did get to when my characters got up to like fourth or fifth level. I think I added a missile at level 3 once you get a talent roll, and added a missile at level 5. I think I got a level 5 character because I think at one point I was doing 4 magic missiles, and I was like, that seemed like too much. So I might max it out at 3. But anyway, I do like the idea of having 2 magic missiles instead of 1, and just bumping down the. That way, you could, if you're, if you're going against really low level monsters, you can maybe take out 2 of them, or if one creature is almost dead, you can shoot one to try and finish them off, and shoot the other one to try and hit somebody else. I like that. Let's see. That's most of them. Oh, I have one more. That's really a house rule. Okay, this one also with the D3. I think in the core book there's not a sling, but I think they did add a sling in one of the cursed scrolls, which is good. I think you have to have a sling, especially for halflings. But as it stands, because they don't really use a D3 in Shadowdark, it's listed as a D4. So in actuality, the sling in Shadowdark is much better than a short bow because it does the same damage and is cheaper and has the same range. And the ammo is free, basically rocks, right? So I didn't love that. So I feel like the damage should be lower. Just 1d3. It's just you pretty much would only use it as a starting weapon, which I do pretty much every game. I like to start with minimal gear. So I start out my anybody who would use a ranged attack with a sling that does 1d3. And this is just in my head, but I think of it more like a slingshot than an actual sling, just because I remember when I was a kid thinking slingshots were cool. I know it's not really as realistic, but to me a sling is a slingshot in RPGs. All right, I like this one too, and this goes back to tying to coming from 5e. In Shadowdark, it's pretty darn hard to get your sneak attack off with a thief. You have to, and it's also unclear. When I'm playing solo, I like clear rules over rulings instead of rulings over rules, which is kind of goes against the core, core ethos of Shadowdark, because in Shadowdark, by the book, it's like between you and the GM, can you set up a situation where you're hidden, where you're surprising them, where you're going to get that sneak attack. As a solo player, that question is hard to answer. So here's how I handle it. For a thief backstab, they must pass a stealth hide sneak check at DC 18 to get the bonus. That's how you sneak. It means you're sneaking up slowly. It means you're waiting for that moment that they're distracted, whatever. This way, for me, this is a little note I made it. This way it comes into play more than like once an adventure, which is kind of Shadowdark. I feel like you'd have to be really clever to get it off more than once an adventure. But in 5e, it's like all you have to do is have a friend standing next to the same enemy and you get that bonus. It's not nearly that easy. The 18 is hard to hit, but thieves inherently get advantage on sneaking and hiding and stealth checks. So they do, and they also usually have a high enough dex that they've got a bonus. So it's also not impossible. Maybe 1 out of 3 tries you're getting that sneak attack off by sneaking up. And I also do use that thematically. At the beginning of a battle, I'll probably give it. If they've already attacked somebody, they can't just make a sneak attack while they're standing next to them attacking the same person. They'd have to get out of the battle, hide behind something, come out the other side, and then I'd give them a chance at that roll again, even if it's in the middle of the battle. But it still has to kind of make sense. All right, that is most of my actual house rules. The other ones are just kind of more like ideas I use. Somebody had a good video I just watched like a week ago. I wish I would have jotted it down. I'll make a note of it if I can in the comments, if I can find this video. But they really did a good job arguing it too. I've always felt this way, and they said the same exact thing I feel. I don't use alignment in my games because the alignment shouldn't tell your character how to act. Your character should act a certain way, and that is your alignment. So if you go around being a murder hobo, you're a chaotic alignment. If you go around now, and you can decide how you're going to play that character. If I've got a paladin, I'm probably going, lawful. But that way, your alignment really is defined by the way you play. And at no point do you really need to write that on your sheet. The only time that sort of thing comes up is like if there's a magic item that's only usable by lawful, or it's something that only damages lawful or chaotic creatures or whatever. And that just doesn't happen very often. I feel like you can use common sense to answer that question. But as far as what your character's alignment is, I just don't even think about it, and I think about how they act instead of trying to act a certain way because I rolled this for alignment. Dual wielding I have not used. I really love dual wielding, and I love dual wielding specifically for a kind of like the magic missile, being able to attack multiple targets if necessary. So I've heard a lot of people talk about dual wielding house rules that are like you can get advantage on damage, or you can add a +1 AC because you're using the weapons to parry and all that. That's cool, but it doesn't fit what I want out of dual wielding, which is being able to attack with one against one creature and attack with one with another. So I think if I do a house rule on dual wielding, and I will try this at some point in a solo game because I like it so much, I'm going to say your main weapon can be no higher than a D6 damage base, and then your offhand can be no higher than a D4. So you're not really getting a big bonus damage to dual wielding, but you can do pretty good damage, D6 and a D4, and then you would get your there's no damage bonus, so never mind. You would, if you had a damage bonus, you wouldn't get that on both, if that makes sense. So like, let's say you have rolled a talent that says +1 attack and damage on melee attacks. I wouldn't do the bonus damage on the second attack. This is another one I have thought of, haven't tried. A lot of people house rule level 1 starting with max HP. And I don't know that I love that, because max can be pretty high, actually, and that first level should be scary and deadly. But at the same time, I don't want to roll a friggin' 1 where no matter what it is, they can trip down the stairs and they're dead. There's no other recourse. So I was thinking about this. You roll for your starting HP, but the minimum is 3. So if you end up with a 1 or a 2, you're a 3. So every character starts with at least 3 hit points, more if they roll higher or have a higher con. So I think that would be a really good, reasonable, not too powerful, and also not too punishing way to do hit points at starting. And that's only for starting level 1 characters. Like every time you level up, there's none of that. You just roll. Luck tokens. This is my last one. Luck tokens, and I think the actual rule is each character can have no more than 1 luck token at a time. Since I'm playing solo, I do that as a group. So I have one, and because you can share your luck tokens anyway, right? So I have 1 luck token. Every time I start a session, I have 1 luck token for the group. You could have a max of 2. That way you can't abuse it, but also that way, like, let's say we have our 1 luck token and then we carouse and get an XP, and one of the carousing results gives us a luck token. I don't want that to go to waste because I have my 1 luck token. But so the group can carry 2. And I would say I would have the same house rule for group play as well. You can have up to 2 because there are times you can get 1. But you can't have more than 2, and you can't stack them. Like, you can't how do I say this? You can't purposely get an extra luck token. Like, you couldn't use the seer ability to give a luck token to someone who already has one, because you can actually control that. So use your luck tokens and then earn more. And I think that's it. Those are the house rules I'm happiest with, that I like and either have tried or plan to try. Most of those I've used and love and I'm happy with. And I also know that I'm always coming up with more. I put off doing this video for a long time because I didn't want to miss out on anything. But let's be real, I've now talked over 20 minutes. I thought this was going to be about 8 minutes. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this video and use some of these house rules and share me some of your favorites. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bradu.